let's just start right from the beginning. And that cold open that started off Monday Night Raw, really showing the history, not just of the WWE, but pro wrestling. I love the way in that open it goes back. It almost felt like those old Coliseum videos when they were showing like the Greek wrestling and the statues and the carvings. And that's what they did. And then Triple H narrating how the game really changed with television, and they show Gorgeous George and then everything that led up to what we're seeing right now in 2025. I actually got a little emotional, I have to be honest, watching that open last night. And once again, hearing Triple H say professional wrestling, because that is a true art form. And I think nobody understands that better than Triple H.
Between the amazing production behind that piece, telling you the history of the WWE and pro wrestling, the emotion, the feel, the curtains dropping, the reveal of Triple H narrating the whole thing, Triple H being the very first talent you see in the middle of that ring. That's where my first tweet of the night came in from. The WWE has just put their flag firmly. If you didn't think it was in there strong or firm before, it is cemented in as of last night. So many different things were being said in the opening of the show. This company is bigger than it's ever been, and it's unstoppable at this point. And the only people that can stop the WWE are the WWE.
Agreed.
Also, Triple H firmly planted his own personal flag in the middle of that ring. My name is Paul Levesque. I run this fucking ship. This is my show. This is my creative. This is my everything. This is no longer my father-in-law's vision. I think last night more than ever, that's what I felt. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but that's what I got from it. You got to remember, I look at it through two different sets of eyes. The fan and the pro who's been doing it and has been there and kind of can read between the lines at times. The WWE is an absolutely monster entertainment company. And that's what I found myself thinking to myself as I'm watching last night. Wow, I really feel like I'm watching a sports entertainment show. I didn't feel like I was watching a pro wrestling show. Yeah, I know I got 4 or 5 really strong pro wrestling matches, but I felt like I was watching a sports entertainment show. I felt like I was watching a company putting the entire world on notice. And that's where the stuff with The Rock is going to come in. This show was for the world, not for the United States, not for a rating. This was for every home on God's green earth that has an app called Netflix available to them. And they were letting everybody know, this is what we are. This is what we do. This is what you can expect. Here's our then, here's our now, and this is what our forever will be. And once you watch it, it's impossible for me to look at it and not that I'm comparing, but then I think of what else is out there. I think of the TNA. I think of the AEW. I think of the Ring of Honor, the New Japan, or anything else out there. Last night, the WWE hit a gear that only, I would say, the Rolling Stones were able to hit in the world of entertainment.
It's hard to define, and it's really hard to even describe, Bully. And the best way I can do it is, listening to Triple H in the press conference, and we'll probably talk a lot about what we heard in the press conference after Monday Night Raw last night. And he said that this had a WrestleMania feel. I think last night was bigger than any WrestleMania. And I even include the first WrestleMania when I say that. This was on another level, because I don't think that the WWE or any pro wrestling show has ever had the reach that show last night had, now being on a platform like Netflix. If you go back to the first WrestleMania, that was at Madison Square Garden, a building that every month the WWF ran and sold out. It was on closed circuit. It wasn't even. Yeah, it was on closed circuit at that time. It wasn't even pay-per-view. So you're limiting yourself with that. To me, last night was the biggest show in the history of the WWE. And you mentioned about Triple H planting that flag.
Hold on 1 second. I got to get this. I got it. Like I said, I have to talk about what pops into my head right now. You just said you think last night's show was the biggest show in the history of the WWE?
Yes.
Do you think it was bigger than any WrestleMania?
Yes.
Who was in the main event?
CM Punk and Seth Rollins.
Who went over?
CM Punk.
Who's the last person we saw?
CM Punk.
What was CM Punk's biggest crux before he left?
Not being in the main event at WrestleMania.
But your opinion was last night was bigger than any WrestleMania.
Yes.
That's a hell of a moment for CM Punk last night. And I hope, and I think he does. I'd be willing to bet $1 on it that he knows just how big last night was and the fact that he was put in that spot because he earned that spot back. Just had to get that out there.
No, and there's a lot of avenues you can take from the statement I just made, and I think that's definitely one of them, because Triple H could now sit across from CM Punk at a desk and say, Punk, we put you in the main event of the biggest show in the history of this company. Like, this overshadows any WrestleMania at any point in your career. So we gave that to you. We gave you that opportunity. And that main event was most likely the most watched main event in the company's history. And I think I could say that definitively, Bully, that was the biggest main event and the most watched main event in the company's history.
Monster. And here's another takeaway. And apologies once again if we're bouncing back and forth. Other takeaway. When Punk came back, the big rivalry was with Drew. Okay? Because he came back, he got hurt, blah, 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 comes back against Drew, yada, yada. What was Drew's biggest issue with Punk? What was Drew saying to Punk the whole time?
About what? About him leaving and coming back?
You left, you came back, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's that kind of like same old when you go after Punk. You took your bat, your ball, you went home, blah, 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 blah. What was Seth Rollins' biggest problem with CM Punk?
You left, he came back, the same thing.
Great. CM Punk beat Drew McIntyre. CM Punk beat Seth Rollins. You can't go near that verbiage anymore.
It's over.
To me, that verbiage is dead. You can no longer say to CM Punk, you left, you were a bitch because you weren't in the main event of WrestleMania, then you went and tried MMA and you didn't do well at that, and then you had to go to AEW, and then you fight. You can't say that to him anymore. He came back, he did what he had to do, and that company felt so strongly about him. They put him over on Drew, and they put him over on Seth. That's some strong shit. All of that BS now about Punk leaving, it's dead. I don't think anybody can make that stick anymore.
I totally agree with you, Bully. And I felt like overall the entire show, and maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, same thing with the Busted Open Nation. I almost felt like that entire show was almost like a reset of a lot of things with this company. It felt like, you know what? What you've seen prior, anything that you've seen prior, that's over now. Now we're moving forward. And I thought the one thing that they did, and they did it tremendously last night, was get you ready for the Royal Rumble. That show definitively got you excited for what we're going to see a month from now at the Royal Rumble. Where, Bully, I even question, and we're going to dive in a lot with The Rock and what we saw with Roman and Solo. I even put out on social media last night, is that the end of the Bloodline story? I mean, did we see the end of the Bloodline story last night?
To me, if I had to judge just based on what I saw, Roman Reigns definitively beat Solo Sikoa, and The Rock put the Ulafala around Roman's head, extended his hand, they shook, and they hugged. That seems like the end. Close book.
I mean,
Do I think it's going to be the end? No. But it very much seems like the end.
When we first talked about the Bloodline story, Bully, we said that this is going to end just the way it ended last night with Roman and The Rock. The Ulafala going over Roman's head and The Rock declaring that Roman is truly the head of the table. That's what happened last night on Monday Night Raw. So I don't know what the next chapter of this story would be or what the conclusion of this story could possibly be.
I do think that there's going to be that match between The Rock and Roman Reigns. It's too big of business not to happen. And unless Rocky has his movie schedule booked out where he's not available for WrestleMania, something has to happen. You talked about last night being a reset, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to get into The Rock. Why was The Rock so nice last night?
Bully, that was a complete disconnect for me. And listen, a lot of your words were echoing in my head. And a lot of things that you have said on this show, I was repeating in my mind as I was seeing The Rock come out last night. And when it was all said and done, I was shaking my head because I was completely confused by what we saw from The Rock. I want to get into that. I want to dive into what we saw from The Rock, not just between The Rock and Roman, but The Rock and Cody. And we'll do that when Bully and I are back right here on Busted Open.